So let's start out by thinking about what we're actually going to be covering in the webinar. And we're going to be focusing on the legal effect of warranties. So what a warranty is and how it works, and then the practical purpose for which warranties are used. So why do we have them at all? We're going to look at the difference between warranties and representations, and then we're going to be thinking about the key elements when you're negotiating warranties. Once we finish looking at warranties, we'll then finish up by thinking about indemnities. So we're going to make sure you're happy with the difference between a warranty and an indemnity, the legal effect of an indemnity, and when you would use an indemnity instead. Now, in practice, you often see the wording on the slide as a clause in the sale and purchase agreement. And it will be very easy to assume that this is standard wording and we leave it alone. But actually, it's not standard wording, and it all needs to be practically considered so that we can decide on the amendments we need to make when we are negotiating the warranties. So you would normally see the sellers jointly and severally warrant, represent and undertake to the buyer that save as disclosed would be defined, each warranty is true, accurate and not misleading as at the date of this agreement. So we're not looking at disclosures today, but we are looking at the drafting surrounding warranties. So we're going to look at the sellers, we're going to look at jointly and severally, and we're also going to think about the representations and undertakings element as well. So we're going to need to analyse each of those items in turn so we can decide how to draft and what amendments we would make when we're negotiating this in practice. So we need to tie everything together and think about the drafting consequences, because so far this is everything that we've looked at. We've said we need to think about the definition of warranties, and we need to make sure we're very clear whether we want it to be warrants or whether we want it to be warrants and represents. And if you act for the seller, you will always delete and represents, because you don't want a misrep claim coming because of your warranties. So you check, is it warrants or is it warrants and represents? Then you think about who is giving the warranties, which is what we talked about before if you've got more than one seller. So thinking about their different roles and who is appropriate to give those warranties. We talked about the wording of the warranty clause, so jointly and severally, warrants and represents. And then we need to think about the wording of the reliance clause. So are they entering the sale and purchase agreement in reliance on the warranties? And that ties in with that representation that we've already talked about.